Good morning and welcome to AutoRabbit's version of Backup and Recovery. Thank you for being here this morning. I wanted to first call out, for those of you who weren't here yesterday, AutoRabbit. The Rabbit stands for Rapid Application Build Integration and Test. So we didn't intentionally spell rabbit wrong, but that's what it really stands for. And we are known in the DevOps space more than anything else. We have been building DevOps tools for Salesforce for a number of years now, and some of our customers have been coming up to us as a part of this overall DevOps chain and asking us, can you also provide backup and recovery capability, because compliance is beating on us to provide this capability. So we've taken the tools that were already in our platform and repurposed it for backup and recovery, and that's what we'll talk about here today. Three people that will be here today. One is hard to get a hold of, but myself, I'm VP of Product and Strategy for AutoRabbit. Sri Mandati will be doing the demo. He's our product architect, and we may get a surprise visit from Jack the Rabbit. As I mentioned, AutoRabbit has been around for 4 or 5 years now, and we got our credibility, our strength in the market through our DevOps tools. So release management tools, helping companies with version control, helping companies with deployment automation, test automation, that capability. And through that process, we've acquired a number of great brands out there in the marketplace. As you can see up here, we're about 125 people. We have worldwide operations. We're a gold partner of Salesforce, and last year we won Demo Jam for our AutoRabbit product. When we think about where backup and recovery fits in the overall schema, we're looking at backup and recovery as an essential ingredient in the overall DevOps continuous loop process. I'm sure many of you have seen this continuous loop from many different vendors. This is our version and our terms that we put across on it. And as you can see, it's a 7-stage process. And right now we see, of course, Vault, our backup and recovery tool, being the product in the operation stage of the overall continuous loop process. The other product that we have covers stage 2 through 5, which is our AutoRabbit product for DevOps. The driver for backup and recovery, as some of you have been sitting through a few of these sessions now, systems compliance is the big driver these days. There's more and more government and industry regulation coming down that says you need better backup and recovery than what you have today. And so companies are out there looking to become compliant with a much more robust backup and recovery process than what Salesforce itself provides. The other reason for backup and recovery, of course, is the always-on digital enterprise. In a world where the expectations that you are available 24/7, that your content, that your websites, that even your Salesforce has 24/7 access to all the information in your system, mean you have to always be on, and therefore you have to have timely backups. Once a week, once every other week is certainly not enough. And then you also have to have a very clean recovery process. And that takes a different level of capability when you're talking about Salesforce and the metadata that we're dealing with there. So timely backups and clean recovery are also huge drivers for what we need here in the always-on digital enterprise. The alternatives out there today, basically Salesforce will even tell you on their own website, don't look to us as your disaster recovery solution. We are the solution out there that is there. It is available, but you shouldn't look to us as your disaster recovery solution. So that quote pulled directly from Salesforce website in terms of how they think about their own backup and recovery solution. There's a lot of other vendors out there today that traditionally have been doing backup and recovery, but since they're not metadata aware, they too are not good options. There have been, and there are a couple of companies, other companies here in the audience, in the conference today, maybe in the audience as well, that are also providing metadata aware backup and recovery solutions. But most of the solutions out there today that companies have traditionally used for their ERP or their other applications don't play well in the Salesforce arena. The core functionality that we've provided in our software, as you can imagine, the backup capability, and I'll go into this in the next slide in a little bit more detail. Compare functionality so you know what has changed between various segments. The restore, not only the data, but the metadata in sync. Sandbox seeding, very, very important. We've learned that very well being a DevOps provider. And then the availability to backup and store data on databases, not just on AWS and other data store systems. So here is kind of the marketing view of how we view this today. So right now you've got your production environment and things are moving fast forward. And depending on what industry you're in and what business you're in, that data may change very frequently, or that data may change a little less frequently. But the idea is that we're taking frequent auto backups, and it can be a full database backup you name it, every day or whatever time frame, or it can be a partial database backup on every 5 minutes. You name the time, we'll automatically do that backup in that period of time. And then we have one-click recovery capability. What we mean by that is not only are we backing up the data, we're syncing that with the metadata as well. So when we do one click, both recoveries take place at the same time. And then once again, you can do selective recovery. So if one piece of your data, one account got damaged through user error, whatever the case may be, you have the ability to selectively recover just that portion of the data. Once again, our experience in DevOps, the ringer that we're put through in terms of being able to do DevOps has really carried over in terms of what we can do for Vault and backup and recovery solutions. And then as you can see as well, whenever there is a need for data seeding, we have that ability with privacy masking. And so privacy masking, once again, is you don't want your developer community or your test community to have access to sensitive customer information. So we basically can overwrite emails. So it looks like a valid email, but it really isn't. Or we can have the ability to overwrite social security numbers or whatever other personal information you don't want developers and testers to have access to. We'll have the ability to do that privacy masking for you as we seed your various environments. The 5 reasons that we've called out for why you should consider AutoRabbit as your backup and recovery solution. And once again, customers have come to us, and you saw some of the customers earlier, and have said, hey, can you provide this capability? And so we've once again assembled the tools that we already had in our platform and repurposed it for backup and recovery. So that DevOps integration play is something I believe only AutoRabbit has, is one vendor that can provide end-to-end capability around continuous integration, including data backup and recovery. Metadata mastery. This is going beyond just awareness. This is our proprietary IP that we have assembled around how we manage metadata. All of the dependencies, all the limitations you have, all of the complexities, we've bundled that into what we call metadata mastery. We've used that in DevOps. We're now applying that to backup and recovery. Privacy masking, as I just mentioned, selective recovery, so you can just recover an account or other block of information, and then the one-click recovery that does both data and metadata at the same time to make life as easy as possible for you. So those are the big 5 reasons why customers are turning to AutoRabbit for their backup and recovery. So I just wanted to give you that preview. I know you'll hear more for the demo, so I'll be quiet and let Sri take over and show you what the product looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you. So let's see. I guess most of you are aware of why this is required and what is it doing for you, and how do you do backups. As with traditionally, I don't want to preach the same thing again and again. Most of you have been listening for a while here, coming here to the Trailhead. Traditional backup management systems don't work well with SaaS providers. Salesforce is an API-only access enabled for you. You don't have access to the data behind the scenes. So it's the master data, it's the metadata awareness, metadata expertise that we have built over probably 5-6 years gives us some strength about talking how to talk to Salesforce from a backup perspective as well as from a restoration perspective. Restoration is your key part, and we live in restoration all day long. Our CI solution, every single step we do is restoration, is migration, is loading your data, metadata into the next subsequent systems. So let me show you some of the key aspects of what Vault does is companies have different requirements for data retention in your systems. And depending on the data retention, we would like to do multiple configuration approaches where you can say, I have my accounts and contacts, I want to keep them for 7 years. I have my opportunities, I want to keep them for 10 years. I have my cases, I want to keep it for 3 years. So there are multiple ways how you can segment your data. And even within that, you can have segment your data based on geography, based on certain document types, based on sales order types, or different aspects you could do backup configurations. For example, let me show you one thing here. You can select and unselect what options are you picking up for your configurations, and once you have the configurations done in there, you can say, I don't want to pick up all of my accounts, but hey, I live in San Diego. I want to only back up my San Diego data, which is obviously very critical. It's the most beautiful city here, so I'm trying to back up here just the billing city, San Diego. Everybody else, I don't care here. So once you have your configurations done, you have a flexibility for multiple scheduling options based on your requirements, based on what's your risk tolerance on this particular data set. You could do a full backup or an incremental backup based on monthly, weekly, daily, or up to a 5-minute interval, which is very critical to make sure that you have a backup version, you have data available for you in case you need to restore. God forbid you don't want to restore that, but you need that risk tolerance, you need that insurance to say, hey, I can go back if I need to. So when all the schedules are done, it's basically simple after that. Your schedules are done, you are going in, the system does it behind the scenes all the time. You don't need to worry about that. All of the data is stored, encrypted on Amazon S3. The data is available only through this application. There are no other side deviations for access to the data. You can, apart from the schedule, you always have a reason for why do you want to do an ad hoc backup. If you have a major ETL activity going on, if you have a major risk assessment going on in your system, you can always trigger a backup at that point of time, and then keep a version for your future needs. Now that the backups are completed, what do you do with the backups? There are two things. Primarily, restoration. If you have the ability to restore, and if you have the ability to restore, how quick is it to restore, and what you can restore out of it. You have metadata. Salesforce comprises of metadata and data in there. You don't want to segregate both of them separately. At a point of time, you have your both metadata and data backed up in the same instance. You can pick that up and then say, hey, restore from this backup. Or when we say selective restoration, I can say, pick up the most latest changes and the earlier full backup from the earlier yesterday's full backup and just the changes as of today, and then ignore all the changes that happen in between. So you're able to pick up multiple ways for what you wanted to restore. Sorry, this is the compare screen in here, but the same way you can restoration. In the restore, you can pick up the new object, and you can pick up the old objects in there. And then you can go for a full restoration that just pulls in all the data, accumulates all of them together, and bundles them up, and then does the load. Or you could actually do selective restoration where I don't need to do everything else. I just need to get in just a few of my documents in here. Let me get the data component in here. So when I go to data component, I can select, again, just a few objects to restore, or I can select the entire backup instance to be restored. And when I select account, when I select contact in here, any way I select, the integrity of the data is pretty critical. So if I am restoring a contact, the associated cases, the associated accounts, those have to be restored together. If you're not restoring them together, your integrity of the data would be lost. So we do we actually check the dependencies on the live system and get the dependencies from there, analyze, hey, what are the parent objects for this contact, and what are the child objects and the grandchild objects for this object. And then we do the restoration in the hierarchy that's required, by also managing the IDs that Salesforce does not let you reuse them. So we manage all of the IDs behind the scenes in here. You don't need to modify your Salesforce data structures. All of that is handled offside of your Salesforce. And within the contacts too, I don't want to even do everything from the contact. I can actually selectively restore certain contact information as well. Again, at this level, it's again the same thing. All of the dependencies are taken care of from here. So let me see. There was one object I did a restoration earlier in the day, which was primarily all of the profiles. Everything got restored. So is the profiles that what happened recently? I think everybody is much more familiar than even me here. You're on the customer side. So when you have this backup, you will have the ability to restore it back to whatever state that you need it to be. As of yesterday, as of last month, whatever you think is the right level of information or right, the day when you had proper data structures in there. Now, all of this information is stored on Amazon S3 on our SaaS platform. We do have multiple deployment models. We work with custom installations. We work with dedicated installations for a few clients that are much more security aware. And some of them also need on private instances as their own infrastructure. So we do have multiple deployment options available. All right. Um, any Yeah, any questions in there? Let me just turn the slide off. Yes, sir. Yes, all of our backend infrastructure is based on APIs, and you have the ability to trigger them from outside. Yes, sorry, let's repeat the question there. Is there any availability to trigger these backups from outside of the system? So we do have APIs that you can access and trigger these calls from any other systems. Thank you for that. Yes, sir.
So I think you said like you could select a backup and then you could like roll everything forward for that day. So if you took a backup last night, you have the ability to take that backup and roll everything.
Yes.
That was that now thing. Did you hit that top button?
Yes, restore now. Yeah.
And then what do you do when you want to like take that part of that backup and seed that into another?
Yes, can we take these backups and seed this information somewhere else? Yes, you can take these backups, the complete backup for full data sets, and then you can say replicate that into any instance. And while doing the replication, in addition to restoring back into the same system when you're doing a replication, you have the ability to mask the data to desensitize some of the information that you don't want in the sandboxes.
Can you limit the number of records that would be?
You don't limit the number of records right now. We can do that. Yeah. Based on the configurations, there are a few clients are using it right now to create different configurations for test-only data sets. That way, you create a master data set that you keep it forever, and then you clone as required. Yes, sir. Are you good? Right. Thank you.